Sadhguru, we're here in Davos at a time when in India there's a big chatter about what's happening at the Gyanvapi Mosque, where there are two different kinds of contestations. One by the Hindu petitioners who are saying that this was originally a temple which was raised by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, and the other led by Assuddin Owaisi and many others who feel that because of the existence of the places of worship back 1991, the status of the Gyanvapi mosques should stay as it is. I'm very curious to know, as somebody who looks closely at society, how you think this very contentious issue should be looked at and addressed.
See, I've been on the road, particularly on a two-wheeler, and I must tell you, till now I've covered 25 nations, 26 nations now. 26 nations and 63 days on the motorcycle, and I have done the 467 events along the way. So it's been a breathless schedule. I really completely unaware of what's happening in the Indian news. I think I shouldn't make a comment without knowing the full nature of what is happening there.
But your broad sense of this idea that there were multiple temples which were raised by the Mughals, and now from Hindu Samaj this demand that, you know, what's happened, for example, at Kashi, what's happened at Mathura, Hindus should have the right to pray over there. Philosophically, how do you see this?
See, thousands of temples were razed to ground during invasions. Well, we couldn't protect them then. Now, talking about all those thousands of temples doesn't make sense, because you cannot rewrite history in that sense. But at the same time, very iconic places. I think the communities should sit down together and work this out. This is not for the benefit of the nation, that everything we fight, whatever you say I will oppose, whatever I say you will oppose. This is not the way forward. Some very iconic places, I think for once we should sit down and say, okay, these 2-3 sites, let's settle this. The rest of it, don't raise it again. I think we should do that instead of going one at a time, and keeping the controversy on, unnecessary enmity between communities. This is not necessary. I feel as a civilized society, for once we should sit down and say, okay, what are the issues? Can we settle it or not? We should sit down and settle it. There must be some give and take in this. About this particular thing, I am not conversant with the news, so I don't want to make a comment on that. But I feel that will be a way forward for both the communities, above all for the nation. It's important. I think we should stop thinking in terms of Hindu community and Muslim community. Right now, India is at a juncture where if we do the right things, we could be a significant nation in the world in terms of economy, in terms of political power, in every way. Nation could become a very significant force in the world. I don't think we should squander this, going on making everything into a big dispute. I know local politics, people will try to play for their advantage. I would beseech people and the news agencies and media houses not to make this controversial. Just make sure that we go towards a solution once for all, rather than raking it up every few years.
So your proposed solution is identify a few crucial sites, sit and talk.
Yes, sit and talk.
Do you think that there is space in society for such dialogue?
There is definitely space, we just have to create the willingness. In this, media houses have a significant role. If you call for debates with the sensible people from both communities, if that narrative begins to build, definitely it's possible. There is no dispute that cannot be settled.
There's been this demand that there be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, like there was in the post-apartheid era in South Africa, where this business of denial ends and the barbarism of Mughal emperors and of invading armies is accepted, and then begin a process of truth and reconciliation.
Definitely, something like that, not necessarily in the same terms, because that was of a different nature. But this also is there is pain in people's hearts. So sit down and talk rather than just fighting endlessly, arguing endlessly. First of all, those who are in active politics should be kept out of these things, because this should not be made into a political mileage or a political capital for anybody. But for the conversation in the country should move beyond communities and come to the nation.
And on the issue of the role that the judiciary can play? Because, for example, in the Ayodhya case, it was said that, this is a one-off exception made for Ayodhya. Now, no other matter should be brought up. You said identify 2 key sites or few key sites, possibly say Kashi and Mathura. But then there are demands being made for the Taj Mahal to be renamed, for rooms to be opened, for the Qutub Minar to be called the Vishnu Stambh, because there also there were temples. So the fear in your proposed solution is, how do you know it will end at 2?
No, the nature of India is there were temples in every street, in every place, all right? This is the nature of the country. Well, historically that's been changed in many ways. There is bitterness in a whole lot of people, so that's why I'm saying a few iconic places you choose and sit down and say these few things you settle, after that never again. It should be raised once again, once again. At the same time, whatever historical blunders or cruelties that have happened, there must be some kind of, if not, I'm not even asking for apologies or anything, because there are no Mughals sitting there to apologize for you. Muslims of the country are Indian citizens, all right? So there is nobody there to apologize to you. Mughal kings are not sitting there to apologize. There is no such thing. Little reconciliation. Okay, something has been taken away from you. Okay, let's settle this. This approach should come. Above all, we must settle these things quickly if you want nation to move ahead. And anyway, even if you want to build a temple or a mosque, you need soil. So let's talk soil, Rahul.
Yeah, sure. No, of course, we spoke about soil at length in the beginning. I also, I'm curious to know your ideas on this big South versus North contestation on the language war. It started with a Bollywood star demanding that Hindi be pushed, and then there was a big pushback from Southern stars. Your idea on...
nation was formed in a certain way. When you form linguistic states, as language as the basis of dividing states, it is a natural promise all languages will be respected. Please keep it that way. Don't try to change the fundamental ethos of the nation just because a certain language has more population and you think you must push them down. This will not work. So if you go by that, always majority should push everybody down. That is not the nature of India. That is not the nature of India, whether in terms of religion or language or community, whatever. That is not the nature of our nation. Majority has some pains, we can sit down and discuss that, but when it comes to language, we formed states on linguistic basis. That means all languages will have equal place in the country. Well, some people think if you make everything into one language, India will prosper. I don't see it that way. It is very important to create a language. It has taken thousands of years. We must understand, like Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, these languages have more literature than Hindi probably. So you cannot suddenly say they must go and everywhere everybody speak Hindi. That's not going to work. So what is the national language? You must understand, India is a nation, a unique nation, which is not formed on the basis of sameness of anything. Not sameness of religion, sameness of race, sameness of language, sameness of nothing. We are a kaleidoscope. That's our attraction. We must see how to make the kaleidoscope really attractive and wonderful. That kaleidoscope is not in conflict. That has always been the nature of the country and we must keep it that way. That is the beauty, that is the biggest draw for the future. If you want to draw the world towards India, not because everybody speaks one language, because every few miles somebody is speaking a different language, that is the attraction.